Chapter 1: The Alpha Everyone Fears. Everyone said you could hear an alpha before you saw him. The ground didn't shake. The walls didn't tremble. It was quieter than that. It was the way conversations died mid-sentence. The way breathing slowed. The way instinct whispered danger long before the mind caught up. I felt it before I turned around. Alpha Cale of Blackridge stood at the far end of the council hall, broad shoulders stretching the dark fabric of his coat, his presence filling the space like a storm waiting to break. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Power rolled off him in heavy, controlled waves, old power, disciplined power. The kind that didn't beg to be noticed because it already was. He was exactly as the stories said. Cold. Dominant. Untouchable. Pack members lowered their eyes as he passed. Strong men, warriors who had faced claws and blood, stepped aside without protest. No one challenged him. No one lingered in his path. You didn't stand in the way of something that could end you with a thought. And yet, his gaze stopped on me. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't sharp. It was careful. The shift was so subtle I almost missed it. The tension in the room tightening, not in fear this time but in confusion. Because the alpha everyone feared didn't look at me like prey. He didn't look at me like a problem to be dealt with. He looked at me like something fragile. His eyes, dark, unreadable, softened by a fraction. Just enough. Come here, he said. His voice was deep, calm, controlled. The kind of voice that could command a room or undo it. Every instinct in my body screamed at me not to move. You didn't approach an alpha unless summoned again. You didn't meet his eyes unless you wanted to be challenged. But something in his tone pulled me forward anyway. When I stopped in front of him, the space between us felt charged, heavy with things unsaid. He was taller than I expected, broader too. His presence pressing in without touching. I could feel his heat, his restraint, the coiled strength beneath his stillness. You're new, he said quietly. Not a question. Yes, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. A murmur rippled through the hall. He noticed. Of course he did. His jaw tightened, not in anger but in irritation. At them. You don't belong to this pack, he continued, eyes never leaving mine. No alpha. The title tasted strange on my tongue. Dangerous. For a long moment he said nothing. He studied me with an intensity that should have made me uncomfortable, but didn't. Instead it felt like being seen. Not judged. Not measured for worth. Seen. Finally he spoke again. Softer this time. Who brought you here? I hesitated. And that was all it took. The air in the hall shifted, sharp now electric. His head turned slightly, gaze lifting past me, locking onto someone behind my shoulder. The temperature dropped. Step forward, Cale commanded. A man moved, nervous and pale. The alpha's attention sharpened. She is under my protection, Cale said. Gasps echoed around us. My heart slammed against my ribs. Under his protection? I hadn't asked for that. I hadn't earned it. And yet the words landed with finality, ancient and unbreakable. Cale looked back down at me, his expression unreadable once more. But his voice was gentle. No one touches you, he said quietly. No one questions you. If there is a problem, they come to me. Then, so softly only I could hear. And if there is danger, I will know. A shiver ran through me, not from fear, but from the realization settling in my chest. The alpha everyone feared had just drawn a line in blood, and somehow, it was for me. Chapter 2. The moment I thought I understood Cale, he proved I didn't. The pack gathered in the training yard, a sunlit arena of dust and sweat. Warriors sparred, claws flashing, teeth bared, strength measured in impact. And Cale stood at the edge, watching everything, controlling everything, his eyes like steel tempered by fire. He didn't move. He didn't need to. The yard obeyed him. Then I stepped too close to the sparring ring, accidentally of course. A giant of a man, one of the oldest enforcers in the pack, bellowed. Out of the way, girl. I froze. The pack watched. Some smirked. Some looked uneasy. All of them knew the rules. You didn't interfere. You didn't cross the fighters. You didn't challenge the alpha's order. Except, Cale's hand shot out before I could even think. A single motion, fast enough to startle the air. The enforcer stopped mid-step, jaw tight, eyes wide, and stepped back without a word. She stays, Kale said. His tone wasn't loud, but it carried across the yard like thunder. Everyone turned. The enforcer swallowed hard, clearly debating whether to defy him, but Kale's gaze pinned him in place. Cold. Absolute. She stays, Kale repeated. The murmurs began. One by one, whispers bounced through the pack like sparks in dry grass. She stays? The alpha said she stays? I wanted to shrink, to apologize, to explain that I didn't mean to, but Kale's eyes met mine. Soft. Quiet. Almost protective. You don't touch her. Not for mistakes. Not for rules. Not for anything. It was as simple as that. The enforcer lowered his eyes and stepped aside. No one said another word. No one dared. My heart pounded, not from fear. Not even from adrenaline. From the realization of what I'd just witnessed. Kale didn't just enforce rules. He bent them for me. And that terrified me more than any claw or fang ever could. Later, when we were alone, he didn't scold me. He didn't lecture. He simply said, almost in passing, "You learn quickly. That's good. But don't ever think the pack's rules are yours to break." I nodded, trying to steady my voice. I won't, Alpha. He studied me, expression unreadable, then softly smiled. Just the corners of his mouth. Just enough to make my chest ache. But, he added, voice dropping to a near whisper, so low I barely heard it, my rules, they don't apply to you. I froze. The words hung between us like sparks ready to ignite. A shiver crawled down my spine. Because every instinct I had screamed danger, yet every part of me knew exactly what that meant. Kale wasn't just an alpha. He was the alpha. And I was already entangled in him. The first lesson was clear. He could protect me, control me, destroy anyone who threatened me. And I had no say in the matter. The second lesson? I didn't want to. Chapter 3. When his control slips. I should have known danger had a name the moment the first whisper reached me. It was subtle. A murmur among the pack in the mess hall. Half heard, barely audible. But in that hall, where silence carried weight and every word echoed like a gunshot, it was enough. She's being watched, someone said. Not a warning. Not a question. Just a fact delivered with trembling lips. I froze, fork in midair. My pulse thudded like a drum in my chest. Kale was already across the room. No one saw him move. No one saw him leave his seat. But when he stopped in front of me, the air seemed to compress. The alpha who could command mountains and men now focused entirely on me. His eyes were dark, intense, and unreadable. But there was something beneath the surface. Something like a storm gathering behind his gaze. Who? His voice was calm. Too calm. No one saw Alpha. Just a stranger in the woods near the border. One of the guards stammered. They were watching you. Watching her. Kale's jaw tightened. Every muscle in his body coiled like a spring. He didn't shout. He didn't move faster than humanly possible. But the tension he radiated made the walls shake. You'll stay inside, he said, his voice low and dangerous. No one leaves. No one comes near her without my permission. Understood. Yes, Alpha, the guard said, voice cracking. Kale's gaze returned to me. The deep male presence that usually felt untouchable now made my stomach twist. There was fear in the air, but not mine. His. I didn't realize it at first. I thought he was just focused, controlled. But the way his fingers twitched, the subtle narrowing of his eyes, the taut line of his jaw, they told another story. He feared for me. And he hated that he could not stop every danger before it touched me. Later, as the sun dipped behind the jagged Blackridge Mountains, I found myself alone near the training yard, trying to calm my racing heart. I should have felt safe. I was with him. Protected. Untouchable by any ordinary threat. But then the shadow moved. A figure slipped through the perimeter, careful, silent. The kind of predator that knew the land like the back of its hand. My body froze. Instinct screamed at me to run. But my legs didn't obey. Then the air shifted. Kale was there. Always there. Without sound, without warning, his presence slammed into me like a tidal wave. Don't move, he said, voice low, lethal, a warning that carried the promise of death. The shadow faltered. And then it struck. Kale's form blurred as he intercepted the attacker. There was a flash of claws, a roar that made the ground beneath me tremble. And then silence. The man or whatever he was hit the ground. Gone, subdued. Broken. Kale's chest heaved. His control, his usual iron calm, had cracked. Not completely, but enough that I could see it. He turned to me then, eyes softening almost painfully. He reached out, a hand hovering just near mine, as if to assure himself I was safe. "You're unharmed," he said, voice rough, almost tender. I failed to keep it from happening." His words didn't make sense. He hadn't failed. The threat was gone. And yet he looked vulnerable. For the first time I saw it. The alpha everyone feared, the man who commanded respect, submission, and fear, had a crack in his armor. And it existed only for me. "Kale," I whispered. My voice shook. He stepped closer, hand finally brushing against my arm. A feather-light touch, yet it carried the weight of a mountain. "Don't ever let anyone touch you," he said softly, almost to himself. "Not for mistakes. Not for rules. Not for anything." The alpha had lost control. And I realized, with a thrill and a terror I couldn't name, that it didn't matter how dangerous he was. I was his weakness. And for the first time I didn't want to be anyone else's. Chapter 4. The Alpha's Soft Voice. The night was unusually still. No howls. No restless pacing from the guards. No tension humming beneath the air. Just silence. I sat on the edge of the balcony outside my assigned room, knees drawn to my chest, staring at the moon hanging low over Blackridge. It should have felt peaceful. Instead, my thoughts refused to settle, replaying the flash of claws, the sound of Kale's roar, the way his control had snapped so easily when I was threatened. I didn't hear him approach. I felt him. The air warmed at my back. The familiar weight of his presence wrapped around me, grounding and unsettling all at once. "You should be resting," Kale said. His voice was different at night. Lower. Slower. Stripped of command. "I couldn't sleep," I admitted. He stood beside me, forearms resting on the stone railing, gaze fixed on the darkness beyond the pack grounds. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. And yet, the silence wasn't awkward. It felt intentional. "I don't like that you were frightened," he said finally. I glanced at him. His profile was sharp in the moonlight, shadows carving his features into something almost mythic. But his eyes, when they shifted to mine, were human. Tired. Honest. "I wasn't afraid of him," I said. "I was afraid of what might happen if you didn't arrive in time." His jaw tightened. "That won't happen again." The certainty in his voice should have reassured me. Instead, it made my chest ache. "You can't control everything," I said quietly. He let out a slow breath, the sound heavy with something unspoken. "I know." The words were simple, but the admission behind them was not. Kale straightened, turning toward me fully. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked conflicted. "There are parts of me," he said carefully, "that the pack never sees. They see command, strength, control." His gaze dropped to my hands, clenched tightly in my lap. "They don't see what it costs." I swallowed. "And what does it cost?" I asked. His eyes lifted to mine again. "Peace," he said softly. "Sleep. Stillness." He paused. "Choice." The word lingered between us. "I was raised to be alpha," Kale continued. "Trained to rule. Taught that vulnerability is weakness." His voice lowered even further. "But when you were in danger, none of that mattered." I felt my breath catch. "I didn't think," he admitted. "I didn't weigh consequences. I didn't calculate outcomes. I reacted." My heart hammered. Not from fear. From the intimacy of the confession. "You're angry with yourself," I said. "No," he replied immediately. "I'm afraid." The honesty in his voice stunned me. "I've never feared losing control," he said. "Until you." Silence stretched thick and fragile. Then slowly he reached out. Not touching me, but close enough that I could feel the heat of him. A deliberate restraint. A choice. "I won't cross lines you don't invite me to cross," he said quietly. "But understand this, my instinct to protect you is not something I can turn off." I looked up at him, my chest tight. "And if that puts me in danger?" I asked. His answer came without hesitation. "Then I'll be dangerous for you." The words sent a shiver through me, not because of the threat, but because of the devotion woven into them. For a moment, neither of us moved. The world felt narrowed down to the space between us, to his quiet breathing, to the way his gaze softened every time it lingered on my face. Then Cale stepped back. "Get some rest," he said gently. "I'll be near. Not guarding. Not watching. Near." As he turned to leave, I realized something had shifted. The alpha everyone feared had just let me hear his soft voice. And once you hear it, you never forget it. Chapter 5. Eyes are watching. The morning air was crisp, but it carried a weight that made every step feel heavy. I could feel it before I even saw them. Eyes on me. Not the friendly glances of pack members or Cale's careful watch. Something else. Calculating. Patient. Hidden. Cale walked beside me as we crossed the grounds. His hand hovered near mine. Not touching, just close enough to remind me he was there. Invisible armor. Invisible warning. "Do you feel that?" I whispered. He didn't answer immediately. His jaw tightened. The slightest flare of his nostrils betrayed the storm beneath his calm. "They're watching," he said finally, voice low-clipped. "Everyone notices." I glanced around. Warriors trained to fight, healers who should care for peace, even the council members. They all seemed aware. Something about the way they lingered, averted their eyes, whispered behind hands. "Cale, is it dangerous?" He didn't look at me. Instead, his gaze swept the perimeter, sharp and assessing. "Not yet. But curiosity is the first step to trouble." "And trouble," he said, finally turning to meet my eyes, "likes to circle its prey." My stomach twisted. His expression was hard, unyielding, but beneath it, a flicker of something more. Concern. Worry. A fierce, protective hunger I couldn't name. We entered the training yard, where the pack usually sparred mid-morning. Today, every movement was calculated. Every glance measured. The whispers grew quieter as we approached, but they didn't stop. A young warrior, bold enough to stare, met my eyes for a fraction of a second before quickly looking away. Cale's hand shot out, just brushing the man's shoulder. The contact wasn't forceful, but it carried weight, enough to make him stumble back a step, shaking his head as if trying to erase the look he had dared give. The alpha's warning was clear. "She is not yours to touch." I wanted to shrink under his power, to apologize silently for being seen at all. But there was no fear in me, not really. Only awareness. Awareness that Cale's world, the pack, the politics, the danger, was changing because of me. A shadow flickered at the edge of the yard. Just a flicker, but I felt it instantly. Cale stiffened beside me, muscles coiling beneath his clothes. His hand hovered closer to mine. A protective instinct humming so loudly I could almost hear it. "You've been marked," he said quietly. I blinked. Marked. His gaze didn't leave the perimeter. Not literally. But the attention you draw. It's dangerous. For you. And for anyone near you. I swallowed. "Why me?" Cale's jaw tightened. "Because you matter to me. And everything that matters to me," he added, softer, almost too soft to hear, "becomes mine to protect." A shiver ran down my spine. Not from fear. From the weight of his words. From the quiet, dangerous devotion simmering beneath them. The whispers continued, but now I didn't care. I could feel Cale's presence, taut and close, the heat radiating off him even through his stillness. The pack could watch, could gossip, could try to challenge him. It wouldn't matter. Because I was his. And for the first time, I realized just how much that meant. Then the shadow shifted again. Closer this time. Too close. Cale's hand finally found mine. A brief, grounding touch. Gentle. Reassuring. And yet, brimming with warning. "They're not all curious," he said, his voice dropping. "Some are hunting." The words were enough to make my chest tighten. The alpha everyone feared had lost control only once, and now he would not lose it again. I had survived the morning. But the day was just beginning. And so was the storm. Chapter 6. Blood for a warning. The night arrived like a predator, silent and dark, pressing down on the pack grounds. I was alone in the courtyard, pacing, unable to settle my thoughts. The whispers from earlier still echoed in my mind. Every shadow seemed to twitch with movement, Every rustle of leaves a warning. I shouldn't have been afraid. I was with him. Kale. The alpha who could tear mountains apart. And yet, even knowing that, my pulse raced. Then I felt it. The subtle shift in the air. A presence just beyond perception. A ripple in the quiet. My breath caught. Before I could react, a figure lunged from the shadows. Claws glinted, teeth bared. A strike aimed for me. Time slowed. Then Kale was there. Always there. Faster than thought, sharper than instinct. He intercepted the attacker with a brutal precision that made the air itself shiver. I saw him strike. Heard the impact. Felt the shift in energy as the alpha I had only glimpsed in moments of control lost the calm facade. The man or beast hit the ground with a grunt, sprawled and defeated. But Kale didn't stop. He loomed over the attacker, chest heaving, eyes blazing, his presence a storm contained only by the slightest effort. "You think you touch her and live?" he growled, voice low, lethal, and dripping with warning. The attacker's eyes widened. Too late. He realized that this alpha didn't just protect what he valued. He destroyed everything in his path. I stepped back, heart hammering, watching the fury Kale held barely in check. The control I had seen in the council hall, in the training yard, in quiet moments, shattered. When he finally stepped away, the alpha's chest rose and fell with sharp breaths. His eyes, dark and intense, snapped to me. For a heartbeat, the predator and the protector merged, leaving me trembling under the weight of both. "Are you hurt?" His voice dropped, softer this time, almost tender, but still edged with warning. I've fine," he whispered. My legs felt weak. My voice barely carried over the sound of my own heartbeat. Kale's hand hovered near mine again, not touching, just close, like a shield, like a promise. "I won't let anyone harm you," he said. "Not ever. Not for a mistake. Not for curiosity. Not for anything." The alpha's fury had returned to its quiet, controlled form, but I knew it was there, coiled and ready, waiting to protect me again at the first sign of threat. I shivered, not from fear, from the intimacy of his care. The knowledge that in this dangerous world, one man's strength could mean the difference between life and death. And he had chosen me. The night was still, the attack gone, but the warning lingered. Kale wasn't just the alpha the pack feared. He was the alpha who would spill blood to keep me safe. And I was already trapped in him. Chapter 7. I will tear the world apart. The storm came without warning. Not rain, not thunder. Something darker. A presence that made the night itself seem alive, hungry and cruel. I could feel it in my bones before I even saw it. The subtle shift in the air, the hairs on my arms rising, the instinctive tug at my chest that screamed, danger. Kale was already there. Always one step ahead, always too fast, always impossibly aware. His silhouette appeared in the doorway, broad shoulders outlined against the pale light of the moon, eyes scanning, muscles coiled like a predator ready to strike. "You're not going anywhere," he said. His voice was calm, but the words carried the weight of a storm. "Not tonight. Not ever." I wanted to protest. I wanted to tell him I could handle myself. But I didn't. Because I had learned, quickly, that arguing with him was not only pointless, it was dangerous. And he was protective. To the bone. To the edge of obsession. The first sound came as a whisper of movement, soft, deliberate, confident. Someone had breached the perimeter. The same shadow from before. This time, it wasn't just curiosity. This time it was calculated. Kale's eyes narrowed, and I saw it. The crack in his control. The alpha who had never lost composure before faltering. "Stay behind me," he said, and the growl under his words wasn't just a warning. It was a promise. The shadow lunged. Kale moved faster than thought, intercepting the attack with claws and strength that made the air itself shiver. The attacker went down, but this time, Kale didn't stop at defense. He unleashed the fury I had only glimpsed in moments of panic, the deep, dangerous power that could crush anyone who dared threaten me. The pack, sensing the alpha's rage, froze. No one intervened. They knew better. They had seen the flashes before. They understood the unspoken truth. Kale would tear the world apart for her. I watched, heart hammering, as he moved with lethal precision, every motion fluid, controlled, but tinged with the raw edge of desperation. His voice, low and terrifying, cut through the night. Try me again. I dare you. The figure hesitated, then retreated. But Kale didn't chase. He didn't relax. Instead, he turned to me, every ounce of his presence radiating protective obsession. His chest rose and fell rapidly, the storm within him barely restrained, but the moment his eyes met mine, they softened. You are mine, he said quietly, almost reverently. No one will ever touch you. Not like that. Not ever. I shivered. Not from fear, but from the weight of his devotion. From the truth of his words, the undeniable claim. I wanted to speak, to tell him but he silenced me with a look. One glance from Kale could stop a conversation, halt a fight, or break a heart. And right now, it was all power and intent, wrapped in the softness he reserved only for me. Rest now, he whispered, voice dropping to a near tender hum. The night is far from over, but I will be here. Always. I nodded, words failing me, because even if I tried to describe what I felt, nothing would capture the tension, the danger, the protective alpha fury mixed with softness that radiated from him. Outside, the wind whispered against the walls. The shadows shifted. Somewhere in the distance, danger waited. Patient. Watching. Calculating. But Kale's presence was a wall I didn't dare cross, and neither did anyone else. For now. I realized then, with a thrill I could neither name nor resist. Part 2 was coming. The threats were only beginning, and the alpha who would tear the world apart for me had only just begun to fight.